Meet my new friend Andrea. Andrea is a talented musician and content creator. Although she grew up in Thailand, Andrea has Filipino heritage, which eventually drew her to the world of OPM and inspired her to move to the Philippines. If you'd like to hear Andrea's music, make sure to check out her content, linked below. I really enjoyed getting to know Andrea. We had an amazing conversation about a wide range of topics, including her diverse cultural background and upbringing, the karaoke roots that shaped her music career, how she got started singing Filipino songs, and so much more. I hope you guys enjoy the video. So you grew up in Thailand, your mom is Filipina, your dad is British. Like, how did that happen? That's quite a mix.
Yeah, my mom used to live in Hong Kong. She used to work as a stewardess for Cathay. And my dad used to live in Bahrain. And my parents met when they were in Bahrain for some reason. And then they moved to Hong Kong. Well, my mom was based there. My dad moved there. They got married. And then my dad's work base was in Singapore, but he wanted us to grow up on an island by the beach. So he picked the closest one, and that was Phuket. I spent 19 years in Phuket. And then, I moved to Hong Kong and then finally back to the Philippines. But you'd be surprised because there's a lot of mixed kids. The Filipino-British mix is pretty common, or at least like in my life, because most of my friends are mixed. So maybe it's because I grew up in international school.
Yeah, it's probably more common in an international school. Yeah, I mean, I also talk to a lot of people that are like half American or half Canadian and half Filipino. I see that quite a bit too.
It was really funny growing up with the two cultures because they were so different, and I didn't understand the Filipino culture until I moved to the Philippines. And now I'm really empathetic towards my mom.
For us English speakers, learning Tagalog can be a real challenge. Trust me, I've been there. That is exactly why I decided to create my beginner's Tagalog course. With over 10 years of experience speaking Tagalog, I made sure that each and every video lesson is jam-packed with only the most useful information. When it comes to this course, the only thing I regret is not having it when I first started learning Tagalog. Ready to learn? Click the first link in the video description below to get started. Now, back to the video. So like, what would you say that your childhood was like growing up, like culturally speaking? Was it like pretty British?
Honestly, no, because like when I lived in the UK for a year, well, during the pandemic, and I didn't really understand most of the slang and like, the typical cultural norms in the UK. And my dad is British, but he's also super international. Like I lived in Bahrain and spent like 20 years of his life in Asia. So it's weird. If you speak to my siblings, they're very much like, oh, I'm a citizen of the world. They're very chill with their like culture and identity. But with me, I struggled a lot with my culture and my identity. And I really didn't like when people asked me where I was from, which is the most basic question on the planet. And I'm like, I would just say, oh, I'm American, even though I'm not. It's just because my accent is American. If I have to explain, oh, I'm British, Filipino, but I've actually never lived in those places, blah, blah, blah. For me, that was so confusing, which is why when I started blowing up on TikTok and I decided to move to Manila, it felt like a full circle moment. It felt like moving here was like, wow, I'm actually in a place where I feel like I'm from. So now I just say I'm Filipino, but with a, Filipino British dad. But because I live here too, it's so much nicer being able to say that I'm from here.
Sure. You'd be like, you become like full circle where you're connecting to your heritage now. And I'm sure it's much easier to explain that living in Manila than it was living in Phuket, right?
Yeah. And then Hong Kong. And then everyone's like, oh, are you Chinese? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, do you speak Cantonese? I was like, no, but I speak a bit of Mandarin. They're like, why do you speak Mandarin? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's like another story. So I always felt like I was half of something, which is not really a problem, but I'm naturally a more like sensitive and empathetic person, hence the songwriting. But being in the Philippines doesn't make me feel like I'm half. And there's a lot of people here that are half Filipino, half something else. But Filipinos don't see you as a half. If you are Filipino, doesn't matter if you're full or half. They're like, you are Filipino. Whereas let's say if I go to the UK, they're clearly like, oh, I'm from the UK. They're like, oh, but where else are you from? Like those sort of questions.
Yeah, I totally see that within Filipino culture as well. Like Filipinos almost have like some preferential treatment for people that are half, I think. They love it. It's like, like you see that in like entertainment in the Philippines. You see that with like models, like everybody's half, especially half white, is like a, kind of a favorite mix, I think, in the Philippines. You get that vibe as well?
For me, I just think, yes, there is, I guess, some treatment, but it's more like it's the one culture where if you're any part Filipino, or even if you're not Filipino, but you want to learn about the culture, like they will fully embrace you. Like my friend, the one I was telling you about that does Japanese covers, he has no ounce of Filipino, but he just liked Filipino music, and the Filipino community so readily embraced him. It's like a win-win in the situation where like you don't necessarily have to be Filipino or fully Filipino, yet you will always be welcomed in the community.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's like my whole brand, right? I'm just a Canadian guy. I got no Filipino blood whatsoever. But yeah, Filipinos have always accepted me and treated me very well because of my, interest in the culture and especially the language, right? That was kind of my way into the culture, was through the language. Yeah. I mean, I go to the Philippines. I've just been there one time. But yeah, people treat me like, like I'm from there almost. Like they accept me in a way that a lot of other countries wouldn't, probably, because I obviously don't look like I would have a connection to the Philippines. So out of like your very interesting cultural background, the Thailand is where you spent the most time, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then
Phuket,
what's
so
the
19
second
years
one?
there.
19 years in Phuket. Okay.
Yes. And then Hong Kong for 4.5 years for college. And then after college, I started working.
Okay. And now you've just recently moved to the Philippines, right? You're in Manila now.
As of last month, yes.
Last month. Okay. And so growing up, even though you were living in other places in Asia, did you visit the Philippines with your family?
I did, yeah, because my mom's parents, so my grandparents are here. All of my uncles are here as well. Uncles, aunts, cousins, the big Filipino extended family. Yeah, so I'd frequently traveled to Manila, but I've never spent more than like a week or two here.
And so how is that process going for you? Do you feel like you're integrating into Filipino life now after a month, or is there still some work to do?
Absolutely. And like I was saying earlier, I feel so welcomed in this community, especially because, I can finally understand the language. Like I live in a country where I don't have to, be the odd person out when people are, even basic things like ordering food or getting into a taxi and like asking where to go. Like I can actually understand what they're trying to communicate with me. And because there's so many more people in the music industry or entertainment industry in the Philippines, there's so many actors, musicians, I don't feel like what I'm doing is strange, because when I used to live in Hong Kong, all of my friends from university started working corporate jobs, so 9-to-5s. That's what pays the bills. Hong Kong, similar to New York in that sense, where everyone's working and hustling. And with me, I just wanted to do music, but a part of me was thinking, oh, maybe I should just do a corporate job, or like maybe I should go to grad school to, study. And I had another path, which was to study psychology. But the week I got rejected from grad school, I blew up on TikTok singing Filipino covers. So I think it was a sign from God to fully pursue music. And then I moved here. And then because of my TikTok, I'm very extroverted. I don't know if you could tell, but I just started messaging people. I was like, hey, I just moved to Manila. Like, I would love to grab a coffee, or I'd love to meet up. And because, we're fellow musicians, everyone was kind of down to meet up. And then through that, I've built a little bit of a, friendship circle, a network. And there's so many different communities in the Philippines. Like there's a run club that I just joined, and I met a bunch of new people there. And there's always different ways of meeting people in the city. So that's all I can say.
Yeah, I think that if you are a musician, the Philippines is a great place to build that brand or to collaborate with other people, because music is so valued in the Philippines. I mean, it's like karaoke is their national sport, right? That's like the thing. And I've talked about that before, how like the Filipino definition of like entertainment is like singing or dancing. Those are the two, like that's what entertainment means for the like 90% of Filipinos, I think.
And that's why I also go back to the point that I said in the beginning. I finally understand my mom's culture now that I'm here. Everyone owns a karaoke machine. It's no joke, but I started singing karaoke before I started talking. Like I had to sing Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On at least 50 times because they give you a score. I wouldn't be able to leave my room until I got 100%. And I was so young. I was like, Mom, why am I doing this karaoke and why is there a score? And now that I'm here, I hung out with a bunch of friends yesterday. They're like, oh, do you have a karaoke machine? I'm like, oh no. I need to get one. So it's no joke about karaoke. You were saying that you wanted to learn about Filipino culture, and you can speak the language and all that, and people are kind of fascinated by that. Someone asked me the other day, they're like, why do you want to move to the Philippines if everyone is moving out? Everyone in the Philippines sees opportunities abroad, and they're like, oh, I want to go to the US or Canada, or used to live in Hong Kong, I want to go to Hong Kong. Why do you want to come to the Philippines? I kind of want to raise awareness to the fact that there are so many opportunities in this country. Everyone's like, oh, don't you want to do your music in the UK or from the UK? I was like, no, because there's so many amazingly talented people, and I'm so happy that people like you are giving Filipinos a platform to actually showcase, their talent. A lot of people are also like, oh, maybe you should, do your British stuff. Like it's easier to break from the UK. I've grown to 400,000 followers in 4 months because of the Filipino community. Hands down. They are the most supportive community on the planet. Yeah, that was my point. People are always moving. They're always leaving. And they're like, why would you move to Manila? I'm like, guys, like there's so many opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is that warmth there. And it was cool for me when I was in the Philippines to collaborate with other people like you were describing. There's lots of like networking opportunities. And a lot of those people were also from other countries who moved to the Philippines. They moved from Canada, the US, they moved from whatever, Angola, like all kinds of places. And so, yeah, lots of Filipinos move out of the Philippines to provide for their families, right? To earn money in other countries that, maybe have some more wealth. And that's a very commendable thing to do. But depending what industry you're working in, there can be opportunities to go the other way too, right? Like for us.
Yeah, for sure.
So you said that you started singing like when you were really young, doing karaoke with your mom and stuff like that. So do you feel like your Filipino heritage was like a part of your kind of like of you developing your love for music?
Oh, absolutely. And I started singing in church, like most Filipino people do when they start playing music. I started from a really young age. Yeah, fell in love with singing. And then when I was around 12, 13, started writing music. And then I kind of put it all together, singing and songwriting. And then I've appreciated music so much more now that I've moved back to the place where I was born. Because all the musicians I've played with from the Philippines are insanely talented. I think it's just ingrained in our blood to play music. So take, for example, the other day, I'm singing at this event called the Cozy Cove, which is pretty famous in Baguio. I was asked to sing there, and I was scrambling to find a band. So I sent one of my friends a message. I was like, hey, can I please use your band to perform with me at this event? We had one rehearsal. In 2 days, they learned all of my songs. What? Like how? And I walked up at the rehearsal, they started playing, and I was like in shock, and they're like, oh, this is normally what we do. Like, oh my gosh, I love being here.
The adaptability of the Filipino people, they just do it.
Yeah, they're so talented. And a lot of the musicians as well, when I was living in Hong Kong, they were Filipino. All the bands that play in bars, the singers, yeah, all from the Philippines. So it's no joke when people say that musicians there are really good.
I mean, people say that Filipinos are the most talented singers in the world. Where do you think that comes from? Is it just ingrained from a young age because of the karaoke, or why is that?
I'd say two things. Well, one, people here are really into, singing in church, so in choirs. So growing up from a young age, you're kind of exposed to music in that way. And two, it's definitely karaoke. And it's not like, hey, we're going to go hang out with some friends and drink a couple of beers and maybe, rent those karaoke rooms to sing. It's like the whole family is there. You have a big feast of food, and there's a karaoke machine with a score, and then everyone sits down and takes their turn like belting out Celine Dion or Mariah Carey songs, and then you take turns. And then it's so funny because I have two siblings. They can sing, but they're so shy because they know that they're gonna be judged for their singing. Like people like, here, take the microphone and sing. We won't judge you, but internally they're like, So
it does seem like Filipinos also are not super afraid of judgment when it comes to singing, because you don't have to be a good singer necessarily to do karaoke. But like from my perspective, like growing up in Canada, it seemed like everyone was afraid to sing here. Like, it's, if you're a kid, it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. But yeah, you see kids and their families and friends just like enjoying themselves seemingly without fear. They don't seem too self-conscious. But yeah, I was like your siblings at like, when I get invited to Filipino parties and they're like, hey, Jared, you want to sing this song? I'm like, no, I'm scared.
No.
I don't want to do it.
Right?
Yeah. It feels vulnerable for me to sing. It feels very vulnerable.
And then when I'm with my non-Filipino friends and we do karaoke, they're like, Andrea, like, take the mic, go and sing. And then I'll sing and they're like, oh, I don't want to sing anymore. I'm like, guys, I actually sing for work. Like, what am I going to do? So, but it is so heavily part of the community here that, Friday night, Saturday night, everyone gets around. There's a karaoke machine. Yeah, I love it. And the fact that my work to me doesn't feel like work. I think that's something that I've always, wanted to achieve in my life. And the fact that I'm able to make a living off singing. It's crazy. So thank you, Mom, and the karaoke machine when I was 4 years old.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes through. Watching your content, you can tell that you're passionate about that. And you are such a talented musician that's so clear to see. And so, yeah, I really enjoy your content. And it's an interesting fusion because you have like the Filipino side and doing some songs in Tagalog. And then you have like, obviously, your musical talents and you've combined those together. Seems like a really cool fusion.
Thank you. And for me, like everyone's like, why did you start getting into like singing Tagalog covers? I listened to the song Marilag. I'm probably butchering how I'm saying that. And I fell in love with the song. And I was like, I've never listened to Filipino songs before. Why? Oh, because, lived in Hong Kong and Thailand, blah, blah, blah. I was never exposed to it. And then I went into like the rabbit hole of OPM. Do you know what OPM stands for?
Yeah. Original Filipino music.
Yes, there we go. Perfect. So I went down the rabbit hole and I started falling in love with OPM. And I had Marilag on repeat. I played it 20 times a day for like 2 weeks straight. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just do a cover? Really simple cover, like in front of my blank wall, got a microphone out. And then overnight, I thought I went viral because I hit 1,000 views. It was like my first video that hit 1,000.
I see God in your face, girl, I mean it, Marilag.
And then from there, it started, expanding, growing. And, everyone's like, oh, sing more Filipino songs, sing this song, sing this song, sing this song. I started gaining traction. It hit 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 views. And I was like, okay, there's an opportunity here for me to sing in Tagalog. But it was such a struggle for me to say some of the words. I couldn't say the line, binibining my Salamanca. I couldn't say that. It just did not come out of my mouth. So instead of continuing to be frustrated and not being able to sing these songs, I was like, how about I show people my struggle of learning to sing in Tagalog? So I'm also acknowledging that I can't speak the language because I always want to remain as authentic as possible on my feed and my TikTok. And it would be inauthentic of me to pull up and be like, hey guys, yep, I speak Filipino. I'm singing some OPM covers. So I wanted to take people on the journey of learning the language through music. And over time, it used to take me 4 hours to learn 30 seconds of a song. It takes me 2 minutes now because I can read the language and I know the sounds and I've learned that through music. So my followers that, saw me 2-3 months ago are now like, oh my God, you can pronounce these words or you sound Filipino. So I am actually learning the language through music.
So do you find it easier to remember the words or easier to pronounce the words rather when they have like a melody or like music to them?
Yeah, absolutely. And because there's a lot of repeated words and ideas and phrases in OPM. So once I learned what a specific word means, I often see it a lot in the songs. So yeah, a fun word I learned the other day was patutunuhan. Like I had no idea what that was, but that word often comes up in music. And now I can read it and go, okay, I know exactly how to pronounce that.
Yeah, because like OPM is pretty romantic normally, right? There's a lot of like kind of love songs in that genre. And so I would imagine that there's some things that repeat, maybe like, pag-ibig or like tadhana or something like that, where you just like, yeah, that makes sense in the context of love.
People love their heartbreak songs here, their love songs, their ballads.
I mean, it's also like even outside of music in Filipino movies, there's a lot of like those kind of heartbreak things where like, a lot of tropes that you see where like the girl is really jealous and the guy is kind of a player, and then like how are they going to make it work at the end of the movie and stuff. Yeah, I think Filipinos, they're very romantic, it seems like. There's that kind of kilig, nakakakilig. Or it kind of like, makes your, whatever. I don't know what the translation of kilig is.
I was speaking about it yesterday. I was literally speaking out about the word kilig yesterday with some of my friends because we were trying to explain it to our non-Filipino friend. It's one of those words where there's not a direct translation in English. You know what I mean? It's like Filipinos, what kilig means, but you don't know how to put that into words. But I'd say it's like butterflies or excitement. that you feel when you meet someone that you like? That was my kind of translation or understanding of the word.
I think that's pretty close to what it is. Because it does have a romantic connotation. There's also gigil, but that's not romantic, right? And so that would be like heartwarming or something like that, but it could be like a really cute baby or a puppy or something like that, where kilig is like romantic.
I have a question for you though. So I know this is your interview. But how, if you're not Filipino, how do you do you understand what the words like kilig and gigil mean? Or do you just know them as opposed to like fully understanding?
There's lots of words and concepts in Tagalog that don't exist in English, right? And so that is a reasonable question to be like, if you didn't grow up with that, if you're not Filipino, how would you understand it if there is no translation in English? And I think that the way that I've learned it is just through like repetition and seeing it in context. Like if you see a word used in a certain context, you'll begin to associate that feeling with that word, even if you don't have that word in your first language, right? So whether I understand it the same way that a Filipino person does or not, I'm not really sure, but I just know it from the context, right? It's the same with like kulit, right? Wag kang makulit. I mean, what does that mean in English? I mean, that's a super common one. And you just kind of like, when you hear it, you hear people using it in this context or that context, and you're like, oh, okay, I think I know what that means. So then it kind of like supersedes like your linguistic mind. You can connect it to a feeling or a situation more than you would the word in English.
Gotcha. Yeah, thanks for the tips. Like, I'll definitely need this with my language learning journey.
So what would you say, like, generally speaking, is your favorite thing about Filipino culture?
I definitely think it's the community. Everyone is always there for people all the time. And let's say even in my apartment building, all the guards know your name and they greet you every time you walk into the building, or your neighbors will greet you. It's the same people that you see over and over again. And I'm slowly building this small community, which is expanding and expanding. And yeah, people are so nice. And for me, because I'm such an empath and a people person, I think it's so nice to be in a country where you're so readily welcomed, and people know you and they speak to you. Because I know in some cultures, especially, British culture, a lot of the times, like you'll go to a restaurant and there won't be small talk. You just, you get your coffee and then that's it. And that's British culture, which is also great on its own. But I'm the kind of person that wants to go to a restaurant and coffee shop and chat to the people there, especially if I'm going to that place a lot of the times. So yeah, definitely the community. Yeah, people are beautiful inside and out, honestly. And yeah, such a wonderful place. And I really encourage anyone that hasn't been to the Philippines before to come, because they'll know exactly what I'm saying when I say the people are so nice.
I think that's pretty much all of the questions that I had for you. Did we cover it all, or is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, I do want to add something. I'm going to kind of self-plug. I'm releasing an EP that relates to finding my roots and my culture, and I'll be releasing songs in both English and Tagalog. So that's something to look out for. But in the process, I will be, learning more Tagalog, studying the language. I'm going to start doing some Tagalog lessons finally, so I can finally understand what the lyrics are trying to convey in a lot of the OPM songs. But yeah, I'm just self-plug. EP coming out this year that, relates to me moving to the Philippines, living here, and my experience.